Just a little introduction is my name is Leslie. I am faculty in dietetics and nutrition at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. I've been at UAA for just about 3.5 years now, and since beginning in the faculty role there in dietetics and nutrition, my colleague who couldn't join us today, Dr. Amanda Walsh, she and I both have a shared interest in food security. And traditionally, we look within the community at different levels of food security within Alaska, within different populations. But something that really stood out to us is student food security. And we started paying more attention to that, looking at the literature, seeing what was being reported as a way of student food security. So that's what got us on this initiative and what I'd like to share with you all today. Okay. We'll start with a little bit of background. Food insecurity in the broader sense, looking at the United States, but also in Alaska. So we know that according to the USDA Economic Research Service survey, over 37 million Americans are food insecure as of 2019. And just this is how they describe it within that report. They're saying at times during the year, these households are uncertain of having or unable to acquire enough food to meet the needs of all their members because they have insufficient money or other resources for food. So food insecure households are defined as those with low food security and very low food security. In Alaska specifically, as of 2018, just over 96,000 Alaskans are considered food insecure. So looking at college students now, because that's a population that traditionally we haven't heard much about. I say we, I mean researchers, public health experts, even people within academia. It's not something that has really come across the radar until recently. The first reports appeared in the literature around 2009. That's the earliest published research that I could find, and that was out of the University of Hawaii. But we know that food insecurity among college students is higher than the national average. And it can be ranging anywhere between 14 to 59% is what is reported in the current literature. And this is students reporting being food insecure at some point throughout their college careers. And if you're familiar with food insecurity literature, you know that there are a lot of correlations between food security and certain negative health outcomes. So you might know already that individuals who experience food insecurity have a higher prevalence of different chronic diseases such as obesity, type 2 diabetes. So in addition to those higher risks in this college student population, we also have this potential for negatively impacting student success. And what we see in the research is that food insecure college students are more likely to report a lower GPA, have overall lower energy, experience a decreased ability to concentrate. They're also more likely to report housing instability or homelessness, and this can negatively impact class attendance and performance. So the main thing that we're thinking about when it comes to college student food insecurity is how it's going to impact their success within college and university. Are they going to be able to be successful in their classes? Are they going to be able to successfully graduate? We're lucky in that there has been some research done specifically at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. This was a couple years ago, conducted by two other individuals within our university system, Dr. Kathy Traver and Travis Hedwig, and they are in health sciences and anthropology and social work. And they did a survey on the UAA campus among students and found that 42% of students reported being food insecure. So this was at least one type of food insecurity. So the types of questions they asked, they were looking at the previous 30 days, and they actually found that as you can see, 85% reported skipping eating for an entire day. 47% had worried about running out of food. 47% were forced to eat unbalanced meals. 27% has skipped meals, and just 1% had even stolen food due to lack of funds. So we know, just based on this survey alone, which I can't quite remember, I wish I'd put it on the slide, I can't remember the population or survey sample for this study. It was not representative of the entire university. It was just a small study sample, but we know from this research that this is a problem. Food insecurity is present at the University of Alaska Anchorage, and we want to do a wider study and really see what the numbers really can tell us. In addition to what was presented on the previous slide, they looked at some other data on their survey and found that those students who experienced food insecurity were also more likely to have lower GPAs overall. They were more likely to be a first-generation college student, have parents with less education, have had more recent moves, so that hints to that housing instability, be housing insecure, experience homelessness, experience at least one disability, have a lower monthly income, and also to have accrued credit card debt to pay educational and living expenses. So these tell us some of those factors that might be contributing to that risk of food insecurity amongst these students. So where I want to focus most of my attention today, if you read the session description, then I kind of hinted towards that. I don't really want to spend too much time focusing on the data, although the data is certainly very important. But what I really want to spend my time doing is talking about some of the current initiatives that are taking place at UAA, but also in the greater UA system. So if you're familiar with the University of Alaska, and I have a slide that gets into this a little bit more, but it's not just one campus in Anchorage, it's several campuses. So we have our three main campuses, Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Southeast. And then within those main campuses are several community campuses. And we have this unique perspective in that we are the main university system in Alaska. And we have, I think, this opportunity to look at the entire student body and gauge food insecurity amongst all the students. So we haven't done that yet. There hasn't been a system-wide survey, but I decided, I bet people recognize this as a problem, and how about we reach out to everybody and find out what people perceive the problem to be, are they aware of it, and what are some of those grassroots efforts that are taking place to address it. So I'm going to start with the stuff that's happening on the UAA campus, and then I'll share some things that I learned from some of my colleagues at the other campuses. So the first one that you see here, this current initiative, this is at UAA. We have a Hunger and Homelessness Support Network. This is an informal group of students, faculty, staff, even community members are welcome to join. And this group is just individuals who share a passion for sustainable solutions for students in need of food and housing support. I put our Facebook page there if you want to follow, but essentially this brings members together to brainstorm, to collaborate, to build partnerships, and connect students to resources. So this is something that could be replicated not just in other academic settings, but I think in other community settings as well. Or if someone on this call or in this meeting would like to attend our HHSN meetings, again, it is open to community member involvement. So if that's something that interests you, I encourage you to shoot me an email and we can get you linked into those meetings. Another initiative that takes place is through our Student Health and Counseling Center. They do an emergency food cache. This is an emergency 3-day food supply. No questions asked. So the point of this service is any UAA student can show up and request this emergency 3-day food supply. It's meant to be foods that don't require a lot of preparation, that don't require you to have a lot of tools or utensils or access to refrigeration or a stove or anything like that, but it is meant for emergent situations. And they provide about 250 bags a year to students in need, which is a pretty big deal. And I've also put their social media information here. And here's just an advertisement that has gone out around campus to make students aware of this. So this is a really excellent program. It's run by our nurse practitioner over there at the Health and Counseling Center. We also have our Student Emergency Fund. This is not specific to food, but certainly could be. It's meant to assist any UAA student who has experienced unanticipated temporary financial hardships. So again, that could cover food. It could also cover housing instability or loss of a job, anything like that. And this is funded through the UA Foundation. So if that's something you feel compelled to contribute towards, and students can apply for this, and as long as there's money in the fund, they can request a certain amount of money. It's not a loan, they don't have to pay it back, and they can use it to meet that need that they have. So the things that I have mentioned so far in the emergency food cache and also this emergency fund, as the names imply, are for emergent situations. And so this led us thinking that there's a little bit of a gap left. And so HHSN, that organization, myself, my colleague, Dr. Amanda Walsh, also our nurse practitioner at the Health and Counseling Center, all recognized that there was this gap of, okay, students can get emergency food, but what about students who need it longer term? We know that our students at UAA are older. They tend to have families. They tend to work at least part-time, sometimes even full-time. They have different needs. Sometimes they have dependents, they have children, they're caring for older adults, elderly parents or grandparents. And sometimes they are deciding between, should I buy textbooks or should I buy food? Should I pay for rent this month or should I buy food? So we were recognizing there's this gap that we need to fill where students might need a little bit more. And so we were able to establish a CEWA food pantry. And this is our newest development and one that I'm most excited about. This is our partnership between our department, Dietetics Nutrition, also the Student Success Center and HHSN. It is officially open as of this March 2022 is our soft opening. We're going to have a grand opening in September to align with Hunger Action Month. And you can see we have our logo here, and this is a picture. It's not like some grand elaborate thing. This is a closet. This is an old office space, but it's a start. And we're already getting so many donations. We've had a lot of support, including from the Alaska Food Policy Council. They're one of our partners. The American Heart Association of Alaska has supported us. Additionally, the Union of Students at UAA, they have passed several resolutions, as you can see here, supporting our pantry opening. We're also working with several students who, because of various clubs or organizations they're in, or even classes they're in, might be required to partner with a community organization or some kind of food assistance program for a class, are reaching out to us, hoping to partner with us. And this pantry helps to meet that gap I was talking about by offering, again, a 3-day food supply for students, but they can access it up to 2 times a month. And it can be for households of up to 4 people. So whereas the emergency food supply was 1 person, emergency food only, this food is going to be for their entire household. And it's going to be broader as far as what we're able to offer. It's going to require a little bit more preparation. We're going to be able to focus a little bit more on nutrition and thinking about what would make a complete meal, a wholesome meal. Right now, we're just doing shelf-stable meals, but we do have a freezer donation coming from the American Heart Association. So we're going to be expanding to frozen items soon. We also have a limited supply of personal hygiene items and even school supplies for students who might need it. Students can make appointments there's an app that students can make advising appointments on. So we've added an option where they can make appointments to come pick up food. And this helps to keep it discreet. It's not like they have to come out in public and declare they're going to the food pantry. There is a stigma associated with it, unfortunately, and not many students want to disclose that information publicly. So this is a discreet location. All I'm doing is making an appointment, going in, picking up a bag that doesn't have a logo on it. It's very, like I said, discreet. And our goal is to have this pantry up and running and fully supported by volunteers, also a student board. We'd like to have regular hours starting in the fall as well. I want to talk about donations. We have bins around campus. This picture in the upper right-hand corner, we actually partnered with UAA Athletics to offer discounted admission to a gymnastics meet in exchange for donations. So we set up a table, we collected donations, people got half off their ticket. We're also planning donation drives for different events to align with different themes, such as Culture Fest. So this is a way that we will advocate for different items to be donated. I think many times people donate very select things. They don't think broadly. And so we want to remind people that UAA has a very diverse student population, and to remind people to donate diverse food items to meet those different population needs. Also, food allergy awareness. You know, you're not often thinking about donating, for example, gluten-free pasta or soy milk, you know, the shelf-stable soy milk. So thinking about some of those things that are kind of outside the box. We can also accept monetary donations, the UA Foundation. And rounding out on the SIWA Food Pantry, we do have a Facebook page that was just started. If you want to follow us, this is where we've posted our wish list for donations we want. We'll post pictures from different events that we're doing, as well as, you know, if our hours change, or if we have something suddenly become available and we're trying to encourage students to come in, this would be the main source for that kind of information. So that kind of sums up what's going on at UAA, but I want to touch on some of those other campuses that I mentioned, because food insecurity among students is not just limited to UAA. As I noted, our system includes the 3 main campuses, Anchorage, Fairbanks, Southeast, and then these are the community campuses associated with each of those main ones. So you can look at each one and kind of think about where you're located around the state, and maybe you're near one of these campuses, but some are in more urban areas, some are definitely more remote. So I reached out to all of these campuses and just looking online who I thought might be connected to things like food security, or might have heard about food security on campus, and reached out and had conversations with some really great people who are doing really great things. And the reason I'm presenting this today is I want to hopefully inspire others, show people that, you know, you don't have to have some big, beautiful food pantry to make a difference. It can be something very small. So we're going to look at some of the things that are happening on these community campuses, and maybe you'll find some inspiration. So the first is at Southeast. This is one of our main campuses again, and they also have a food pantry. And their food pantry is, the mission is to provide supplemental food, so similar to Anchorage. And the point being that regardless of circumstance, no student should have to choose between food and other basic needs. So they are there to ease that choice and provide support. Their pantry was established in 2018, so not too long ago, with the help of their care team, and I'll explain in a second what the care team is. Staff council, faculty, and other student services. This is a good point to make here, and just kind of emphasize that this is a group effort. It's always a group effort. Even with the UAA initiatives, and as you'll see with some of these other ones, it's never just one person or one organization. It's a collaboration, and many people with the same motives and passions coming together to make things happen. So I think that's important to remember. And essentially it's open to any Southeast student or staff. So this is a little different in that they also offer food to staff who might be facing food insecurity. They locate their food pantry in a more resource-oriented area. In that sense, I mean, it is centrally located. It's in their student resource center. It's near the advisors, similar to what ours is, but it is kind of behind the scenes in order to offer a little bit of discretion. But what I think is unique about what they do is they also will prepare some bags and put it in satellite locations around campus. So for example, they have prepared bags available in the library and also in student housing, which is a really great idea. So that way students, if they can't, for example, they don't have transportation, they don't pay for parking, they can't make it to whatever location the main pantry is, they might be able to reach one of these other satellite locations. As I said, it is run by their care team. Fairbanks also has a care team, Anchorage has a care team. This is basically a team of staff and faculty that support student success. They assist in kind of responding to student behavior or student concerns for their well-being or the well-being of others. So that it's a broad umbrella, but within that umbrella, there's home for food security and assuring that students can access safe, healthy food and nutritious food. So the care team is kind of an obvious choice to run a student food pantry. Similar to us, they get a lot of donated items from their campus staff and faculty. They also have membership with their food bank. One of the reasons we do not in Anchorage is that, at least not yet, we don't think we're big enough. Our shelves, like I said, we're basically in a closet. But also, once you partner with the food bank, you are technically required to open your food pantry to the public for access, which is something we certainly want to support. It's just we don't have the capacity necessarily to do that yet, especially right now with COVID. A lot of our buildings are still card access only. The public wouldn't be able to access it. So that's not something we've pursued at the moment, but certainly will in our future. Again, they're also able to take monetary donations online through the UA Foundation. And just reminding us that the care team, in addition to the food pantry, can provide financial support the same way that we have the emergency relief for our students at UAA. So UAF, our other main campus up in Fairbanks, they also have a food pantry. It's called the Wood Center Food Pantry. This was established in 2015. So of the 3 main campuses, they're the most established, and it was actually started by a social work student as part of a Nanook Legacy project. And then once that student graduated, it was jointly operated by their Diversity Action Center and the Student Activities Office. And the Office of Sustainability took over in 2019. So again, kind of emphasizing that point that these things can be very transitional. It takes a lot of hands in the pot to make these things work. But that's what makes them work, is pulling people from all different areas of campus, all different areas of the community to come together for these joint initiatives. They have a little bit different operation, open twice a week within the student union, actually. And so they have a counter where students can walk up. I'll show you an example of that. Students just have to swipe their card, show their card, and they get 1 bag of food per week. And they estimate about 3 to 8 students per week. So here's what that looks like. It is actually a walk-up counter. It's kind of doubles as their information desk. So it is a little more conspicuous than at the other universities. But they have donation bins throughout campus, again, limited to non-perishable. And they also have a limited supply of those personal hygiene products as well. Their food drives are primarily done by Office of Sustainability, but other offices as well. They too align with greater initiatives like Eating Disorder Awareness Week, Earth Month, Water Day, and some others. And they also help to raise awareness. So they've pointed out here that not many students know of the pantry or think that they quote unquote qualify to use it. And that's something I think is important to mention during this conversation, because some of you might be thinking, well, you know, aren't there a lot of community resources already? Do campuses really have to have their own food pantries? And that's a question that we asked ourselves too, as we were brainstorming for the SIWA food pantry and thinking, you know, is this something we really need? But when you talk to students and you hear from them, they don't think they're qualified necessarily to use the community resources. They think, well, that's for someone who really needs it, or that's for someone who doesn't have anything, or, you know, a lot of them might be associated or affiliated with a religious organization, which can sometimes lead to a misunderstanding that you have to belong to that religion or that denomination in order to use the resource. And a lot of those are misunderstandings, but we saw a barrier and we saw that, okay, this is keeping students from accessing these things. So it is important to have one on campus where students feel like, okay, this is for me. This is a resource that I can use. Another really cool thing they've done at Fairbanks is they have come up with a cookbook for their pantry. So this includes many recipes. You can source almost all your ingredients from the pantry. And they were pointing out that, you know, a lot of students, you might not know what to do with canned veggies and a can of tuna or something like that. So they had some fun putting together this cookbook that actually helps students to utilize the foods that they're receiving. Our next campus is Kenai Peninsula College, and they also had a food pantry. And I say had, past tense. I'll tell you why. So on their Soldotna campus, it actually began with a very small effort, which was snacks, granola bars, instant noodles, that kind of thing that was just available casually. But then they came up with a more formal food pantry in the residence hall, relied on donations, also a contract with the local food bank, open to all students. But unfortunately, with the onset of the pandemic, this was dissolved with temporary closure of the res hall. And I do note that I have a comment in the chat box. I can't really see it on my screen as I'm sharing, but maybe I can get to comments at the end. Or if someone wants to just interrupt.
Sorry, Leslie, it was just me giving you a 5-minute warning.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Yep, we'll get through it. So they're helping at KPC that they can rebuild the pantry. They're hoping to include more fresh foods, more locally sourced products, and making it available to all students again. Kodiak College, another small community campus, and this one is really exciting to me, and one that I'm going to emphasize probably with the rest of my time here. And this is their future food pantry. They are still in the planning phase. It's going to be operated out of their campus center. It's a very student-friendly setting. They have a lot of resources available, so students are spending a lot of time in this area. And the reason this is exciting to me and one I want to emphasize is because it's basically going to be a drawer and a cabinet. And I think when, you know, whether we're in the health community, public health, or in academia, whatever it is that we do as health professionals, sometimes we think it has to be this big, beautiful thing and very well planned and very well laid out. And sometimes you just got to start small and be like, we have a cabinet, we have a drawer, let's make a food pantry out of it. So that's what they're going to do. And they have applied for funding, some initial funding. It's going to include non-perishable, dry, canned goods, other shelf-stable foods, and it's going to be available on the honor system, which I think is fantastic. Students are just going to be able to walk up and take what they need. They're going to prioritize culturally and locally sourced foods. They're even going to put together some meal bags that are like prepackaged dinners. So it might have a protein, a starch, and a canned veggie. The students can just take that bag. It's right there next to a community microwave that can be used. And they're also going to put out disposable plates, bowls, cutlery, etc., for immediate use. So I think it's fantastic. Again, showing you don't have to have much. This is the very beginning stages. It's going to be run by their Kenai club, particularly their president, Roberta, who was in that picture that was a few slides back, and their Allergy studies program, and will be restocking and supplying from storage. So for time's sake, I'm going to skip over the Kenai club, but I can share my slides, and this is recorded. But they wanted to also point out that this is similar, or I'm sorry, it's located near the library as well, and the library staff also have always supplied snacks to students who are studying and using the library and hosting seasonal celebrations that include things to eat. So they're doing lots of things at this campus as well, despite the fact that it might seem very small. So in summary of other campuses, these are ones that I also reached out to. You'll see that in general, tends to be general interest in food security. Sometimes there's nothing formal going on. Prince William Sound campus, they have a strong partnership with Community Resources, the Valdez Food Bank. They also have a care team that is exploring offering emergency food bags. Some campuses are planning community gardens like Bristol Bay. Kuskokwim refers to Community Resources, and Ketchikan refers to Community Resources. In summary and kind of offering final thoughts, I want everyone to walk away with this awareness of student food insecurity, that in recognition that it is an important issue across the UA system. Know that we are planning for a large scale formal assessment. We need to have the data. We want to show here's food insecurity among college students in Alaska. Once we have that data, the possibilities are pretty limitless as far as grants we can apply for and resources we can develop. And no effort's too small. If you walk away and you're thinking about doing something on your own, know that no effort's too small, and whatever it is you can do will be supporting students in Alaska. So thank you for your time. I hope you were inspired and maybe learned something about UAA and our students, and I'd like to take questions if there's time.
Well, it doesn't seem like we have too many questions, but you can always contact Leslie if you do have questions. And I'd like to thank you all for you being here, and thank you, Leslie, for a fabulous presentation. I learned about a lot of different programs happening. Thank you.
I do have one question. It's Don Blado. I run a 11,000 square foot garden behind our church, and we contribute to Lutheran Social Services and Beans and the Gospel Rescue Mission. Is there any projection that you'll have refrigeration so I could possibly provide fresh food at UAA as well?
Yes. First of all, I think that's amazing. Well done. That sounds fantastic. With our current setup, we probably don't have the capacity. I think in the fall, as we have more awareness and we have more regular volunteers, we could probably do something like, Wednesday next week, we'll have fresh food to distribute, but I don't think it could be something we would have refrigeration to store.
Okay.
But I will drop my email in the chat box. I encourage you to shoot me an email and we can chat about it, because that sounds great.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, it's time for our next session. And thank you again, Leslie. I'm going to change a few things.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. Okay, so now I'm going to welcome you to our next session, which we are in session 6D, and we will be hearing from Bryce Wrigley today about the effect of including barley in diet to treat diabetes. So I'm gonna pass it along to him, but I'm going to make you a spotlight there. There you are. Okay, and Bryce, if you have anything you need me to help with, you just let me know.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Everybody else, thumbs up.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
I can hear you. I can hear you just
Okay,
fine.
you can hear me. Okay.
Yep.
For some reason, my slides don't look like they're showing up. Do you happen to have mine queued up?
I don't, but I can do it really quick. Have you tried sharing screen? I gave you permission.
Yeah. I'm. Let's see. Allow. Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. Let's see here.
Just see if I can get them queued up, because I do have them. I downloaded them yesterday. I have your videos with what was in the box that was uploaded. I don't see a PowerPoint. Bryce?
Mm-hmm.
Did you upload the PowerPoint? I have the videos.
Yeah, the PowerPoint should be there too.
Well, give me a second, please, everybody.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought I had downloaded it when I downloaded the package that was in there. It said diabetes upload. So hold on just one moment. Let's see. Let's see. All right, I need help with this because I'm not seeing it in the group of them, but there is. Oh, here we go. Well, that's why. Okay. All right. You just have to give me a second because it's. Oh, Megan, can would you be able to share it? And then I can.
I am
I'm
here and I am
Okay.
downloading them, but my computer says it has 13 minutes left to download. So I don't know if it's going to happen quick enough. So I sent you the link though, Melissa.
Oh, mine
No?
is coming. Mine
Okay.
says 50 seconds because I've
Oh,
got.
perfect. That's going to be way
I've got a
quicker than
hard-
mine.
I've got a fast one. Well, it's weird because I downloaded the whole folder yesterday, but the PowerPoint didn't come with it. And
Very strange.
I
Sorry,
should have
Bryce.
checked
Thank
that.
you for your
Oh, that's
patience
okay.
with us
Yeah,
while we
thank you.
get this worked out. But I'm glad that your internet is
And
speedy now.
if the PowerPoint doesn't work out, then as long as you do have access to the videos, we may be able to still. The videos are the important part because that's the doctor stuff.
I do have the videos queued and ready to go, and it looks like the PowerPoint has got 10 seconds left.
Okay.
So thank you all for being patient with us on our tech difficulties, but we're getting there, and not a problem. Oh, I think we got it. Hold on, and I'm opening it up here. Come on.
Good
Oh.
moment to say another congratulations to the Wrigley family. Congrats, Bryce, for the Food Hero Award too. That was very exciting to hear.
Yeah,
from
thank you,
this.
Megan. Yeah, that was exciting. It was very cool. We had our family over there this morning to see that
Yeah.
presentation. It was very fun.
Excellent. Yeah, you're so deserving of that. So thank you for all that you do for our food
Oh,
system.
thank you.
I have Alaska Flour Company barley and cinnamon chip pancake mix and all that in my pantry right now. So I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Well, and I want to let you know that Tammy's bringing you your quilt. She picked it up yesterday.
Oh, very cool. Thank you.
Okay, so I have your PowerPoint ready to go, and hold on just one sec, and I will share the screen, and I will go.
Did you click share sound before you shared your screen, by the way, Mel?
Nope, I did not.
Okay. You might need to restart because since there are videos in there, you have to click that share screen.
I don't think, yeah.
It's on the bottom left of the pop-up window when you click share screen.
When I go
You
share
see it?
screen, I'm not seeing share sound.
When you click share screen and it has a pop-up window, the bottom left corner of that pop-up has a little checkbox.
Oh, I see it. Got it. And I got it.
Sweet.
Get to the. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Slideshow from the beginning. There we go. Okay, Bryce.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good.
So for everyone, appreciate your patience. I'm actually in North Pole, and so I'm working with a different computer, and for whatever reason, it didn't work with my presentation. I appreciate the people involved in this symposium being willing to work with me on that. My name is Bryce Wrigley. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I'm actually a farmer. But I'm going to be providing or presenting some medical information using a real doctor, not one that plays on TV. But I want to start with a little bit of history. And then I'll introduce you to him and he will talk about about diabetes and the beneficial effect that barley in the diet has on diabetes, treating diabetes. So we've farmed in Delta Junction since 1983. We raised barley primarily, and in about 2011, we decided to build a flour mill to address food security in Alaska. At about a year or two earlier than that, UAF had, and we'd been thinking about this, but UAF had released a new barley that they had developed that was sunshine hulless barley. So most barley is a covered barley, that's feed barley, and has a hull that is very very firmly attached to the brand. So it's hard to get that off. Hull-less barley, on the other hand, sheds that outer hull in the course of harvest. And so anyway, we got some of that. There was just a little bit, a couple 100 pounds. We planted it one year, we saved the seed, we planted it the next year, eventually wound up with about 10 tons. And with that 10 tons, we started the flour mill in 2011. We started milling it into flour, the sunshine barley into flour, but people were familiar with wheat flour, but not many people were familiar with barley flour. And so sales really didn't take off. Now, when you mill barley, or when you mill anything, you run it through a sifter, and you get a mixture of different sized particles. Some of it is flour, some of it's a little bit bigger. You run it through a sifter, and that separates all the flour, and then everything that is bigger than flour comes out. Our sifters have can sift 3 different products. So we were sifting the flour, and then we were just returning everything that was larger than flour back to the mill and making more flour. But I was looking at one of the products that was coming off the sifter, and it looked a lot like cream of wheat. And so I took some, I went up to the house, got down the cream of wheat box and looked at how to make it. And I made some barley cereal just using the cream of wheat recipe. And I'm not really a big fan of cream of wheat, but the barley tasted really good. And so we started marketing that as cream of barley, and it quickly became a really good seller. So with that success, I started looking at the next product that was coming off, which was coarser than barley. Didn't know what to do with it, but I took it to a chef in Fairbanks, and I asked him, what did he think that looked like? He said, wow, it looks like couscous. And so I thought, I didn't even know what couscous was, but I said, fine, we'll sell it as barley couscous. So we started selling that as barley couscous. And that quickly became a second bestseller. Well, one day, as we were milling, we got a call from a doctor in Texas named Dr. Perdiso. And he is an internist that specializes in treating diabetes. And he said that he had a patient, and he was looking for some barley flour to give to this patient because the medicine that she was on was not doing a good job of regulating the fluctuations in her blood sugar when she ate. And so he said, well, go get some barley flour. And she looked around, couldn't find any. She told him that. So he did a search, found our name, and contacted us. And so he said, do you guys sell barley flour? And we said, yeah, we do. And so we talked for a while. We wound up sending down some barley flour to him, as well as some cream of barley cereal. And then a few days later, we got a call back from him, and he was just really excited. And he shared his experience with his patient. He said that he gave the patient the barley flour and told her, go home, make your tortillas out of the barley flour, take your blood sugar readings every half hour for 2 hours, and call him back. Now, normally when she made these tortillas and ate, her blood sugar would spike 140, 160 points. And so he was curious as to what would happen with the barley flour. And he was amazed when she called him back, and her blood sugar had only gone up 4 points. So that's when he called us, and we spoke for quite a while. He was really excited about that. He started recommending barley in the diets of his patients. In fact, he arranged with several health food stores in his area so that he could send his patients and they could find the barley cereal or the barley flour. So we've been selling our products down there at those health food stores since then. But over the years, we talked a number of times. And he told us one time that doctors have known for a long time about the benefit of barley in a diet in treating diabetes because of the beta glucans. The beta glucans help. It causes a slower breakdown of the food in the gut. And so that is how it regulates or doesn't cause these sugar spikes. But one of the things that high beta glucan barleys do is they produce gas. So people, when they eat barley, a lot of times they'll get gassy, or they'll toot or something, and nobody wants to do that. So a lot of people don't eat it. But he said that our barley that he used, the Sunshine Hull-less barley, did all of the benefits that the barley is supposed to do with regulating diabetes and the sugar spikes. but it didn't cause the gas. And he was wondering if it was something in the particular strain of barley, or if it was maybe something in the environmental conditions that it was grown in. And I don't have the answer to that, but he's been really pleased with the way that performs. Now, that was our first official experience with with barley as health benefit and a benefit for diabetes. Over the years, we talked. Eventually, we wound up going down to Texas, and we spent the whole day with him. He was very willing to spend as much time as we needed. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you to change some slides. So go ahead and change a couple of slides if you don't mind, Melissa. So that's our flour mill. And go to the next one. And that one is, that's me and Milo, my son. We're taking a look at the cereal. We look at that periodically. We examine it for size, make sure that it's clean, things like that. That's what we're doing there right now. Go ahead with the next one. So I want to, before we, until we started down this path, I really didn't know much about diabetes. So I wanted to share with you some facts that I found just really astonishing. I got all this information on Google, and most of it from the CDC website. But according to CDC, 34.2 million Americans have been diagnosed with diabetes, and that's just over 10% of the population of the United States. And an additional 88 million, or about 33% of the population, have pre-diabetes. So in total, about 40% of the population of the United States has or is at risk of developing diabetes. To me, that's just a staggering number. Probably every person here knows somebody who has diabetes, and probably every person has somebody in their family who is pre-diabetes with those kind of numbers. The demographic with the highest current cases of diabetes is Native Americans. And in 2017, the estimated cost of treating diabetes was $327 billion. And that amounts to about $9,600 per person. And that cost does not count whatever value you place on the quality of life, a decline in quality of life because you have diabetes. So I just thought that was just astounding to have those kind of numbers. Now, with all that bad news, there is some good news, particularly with diabetes, because for most people, even those who have diabetes and those who are pre-diabetic, a change to your diet and your lifestyle will reduce the impact of diabetes if you have it. And if you don't have it yet, may be able to help keep you from getting it. So I'm going to introduce you now to Dr. Perdiso, and he's going to talk a little bit about explaining how he got into using barley to treat diabetes. So if you could click onto the next slide. And then you'll have to click that video.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the video. Oh, the videos were separate.
Yeah, the
They're
video is embedded in the
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go back to that. I apologize. I thought they were separate. So please forgive me.
Well, I just put them all in there so that they wouldn't lose their connection.
No problem. Let me just move that. I'm gonna go here. Okay, and we go here. All right.
You'll have to click that little arrow down there. Yeah.
Gary Perdiso. I'm a
Can you hear it?
general internist.
I can.
Here
Yeah.
in Lido, Texas, and I have an interest in treating diabetes with primarily food and lifestyle change. And I have particular interest in beta glucans as for their effect on blood glucose and weight loss, blood pressure, and cholesterol control. You know, initially I practiced in South Texas, and one of my colleagues, we were discussing one day diabetic complications, especially diabetic neuropathy. And he said, well, you know, where I trained in India, we had so few people that had diabetes, we never saw a diabetic neuropathy. We had to go to textbooks to see examples of it. And I said, well, where did you train? He said, well, you know, it was a mountainous region of India. I said, what did the people eat? He said, oh, they ate barley. Okay, they never ate They never ate rice. They never ate Western meals. They were primarily, barley was their go-to grain. I said, oh, this is interesting. Iraq, when patients developed diabetes, the doctors would take them off rice primarily and wheat and switch them over to barley. These are ancient doctors, okay? Back then they tested diabetes because the patients produced the sweet urine. So they would taste the urine, believe it or not, one drop, and they would make that determination. They said, oh no, you have to eat barley. And so, of course, they had no knowledge of the beta-glucan and its effect, but they knew the barley had something that wheat and rice, did not. That's spurred me on to do my own study. I was actually teaching the residents, and I said, somebody's got to do a paper about barley and diabetes because there's an effect there, and nobody would do it. So I said, fine, I'll just do it with my patients, and I'll just say, look, do me a favor, go buy your pearl barley, boil a gallon of water, pour the box in there, stir it for an hour, and eat 1 cup every morning and have 2 jumbo egg whites for your protein. Then, of course, I put them on the Ezekiel bread for lunch, and then I explained to them what I wanted for supper. And the patients that did this had like a metamorphosis. It was like, literally, I had one guy that was a cardiac cripple who lost like 50 pounds, and he went from being truly a cardiac cripple to working out in the gym. And he reversed his failing heart. He had a defibrillator placed. His heart was huge. His heart shrunk down, and we took him off many medications. So then I said, oh no, we need to explore this even further. And so that's when I got interested in beta glucans, and eventually I did a study that it seemed to exactly confirm that, but there's plenty of studies out there that confirm the same thing. So yeah, and I'm very passionate about beta glucans because, as Dr. Sears says, you got to eat. You may as well eat smart.
Okay, so now go to the next.
I'm very so. I'm a general internist here in
So
Alito,
can you
Texas,
go to the next slide now?
treating diabetes,
Okay. I thought I.
oral aid.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I'll go back up. Is it this one or the next one? Is the question. All right. And I'm gonna try to press play.
Barley has.
Is that the right one, Bryce, or is it the one before?
This would be the second one with Dr. Perdiso.
Okay. It's hard for me to see which one I'm on because I just hit the bottom one. So I will just press play and hopefully
Okay.
it's
Yep.
The highest concentration of beta glucans of all the grains, and then a close second would be oats. But the beta glucan, I believe, in the oats is primarily in the oat bran. So the barley itself, though, I mean, the barley is when you buy pearl barley, for example, you're going to be getting beta glucan in that product. It's even though the pearl doesn't have the bran or the germ, you're going to be getting beta glucan, and that's what we want. So I particularly like the sunshine barley that you have because it's got all the benefit of the bran and the germ and all the beta glucan. So you're getting more fiber with its benefit, and the barley itself, how it behaves in the gut is the driver for all the metabolic effects. And what it does is it breaks down very slowly. And that slow breakdown in the gut is the key to the lack of rise of blood sugar after the meal. So that's a very, very important thing. The wheat people are looking into taking that beta glucanase amino acid substitution and putting it into wheat. And I'm thinking like, that we already have a perfect grain. Why do you want to mess with that?
So now go to the next slide.
Okay.
Barley has the highest concentration of beta glucans of all the grains, and then
So
the
All right.
you'll probably have to use the arrow key.
Is this the right one?
Yep, that'll be fine. So
Hit
this
the down button. So, okay, you go ahead.
Okay, so we have a friend in Delta. He grew up in Arkansas, and he loved grits, but he got diabetes, had to stop eating grits. So he saw the barley cereal, cream of barley cereal, and thought, dang, that looks like grits. So he made some grits out of this. Now in this presentation, he's going to show you his blood glucose monitor, and that tracks his blood sugar reading over the course of the day. And notice the left-hand side of that, that's what the blood glucose monitor shows as the rise in his blood glucose after he ate the barley cereal, the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you'll see a spike. That was when he ate supper. So go ahead and turn that on.
My name is Steve Lemons. I grew up in a small town in Arkansas, and I've been diagnosed a complete diabetic for about 6 years now. Always my breakfast regime included grits or cream of wheat. I felt like that was all ripped away from me, because when I saw the numbers, I was like, nope, I can't have this. And when I saw cream of barley, the first thought in my mind was, I wonder if that's like cream of wheat or oatmeal, or what the consistency is, how it would do. So I got a bag of it and instantly thought, this looks exactly like grits. So when I started eating the cream of barley, I wanted to find out how it works. On the left over here is when I had the cream of barley, and it hardly affected my sugars whatsoever. I had just a small rise, and then it stayed consistent throughout the day. It opened my options for breakfast.
Okay, so now go to the next slide.
My name is Steve Lemons.
This one?
Yep.
All right.
The glycemic index of barley is 26. Every food has a glycemic index, and it's a reflection of how quickly the blood sugar rises over a 2-hour period after you take that food by mouth. And usually it's healthy male volunteers, okay, that they follow with 50 grams of whatever substance you're looking at. And they compare that to how that person's blood sugar was with 50 grams of pure glucose. And that will give you a range. So barley would only give you 26% of the impact of pure glucose. And you would say, well, that probably is a good thing. Yes, it is. Because the whole problem with diabetes is that the patient's pancreas can't handle the sugar that's coming in. Its rate of entry is just way too quick. So barley being slow to digest, therefore having a lower glycemic index and a longer time to get from the gut into the bloodstream would help win the battle of controlling blood sugar after the meal. So if you eat the barley as opposed to, say, minute rice, okay, that's glycemic index is near 100. Now, barley has a glycemic index of only 26. So that means its rate is it's a 75% reduced rate of entry. So therefore, the blood sugar after the meal is going to be much better controlled. And the patients may, if they stay long enough with a barley replacement for, say, rice or white bread or mashed potatoes or things that just really enter the bloodstream quickly, if they stay with it, what they usually find is they can now start reducing their insulin requirements, or they reduce their oral agents. And then that's just one aspect of it. They get secondary benefits in cholesterol and blood pressure reduction. With the exception of those people who have a true allergy to it, everybody on the planet could benefit from adding barley into their food chain. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, next slide, Melissa.
The glycemic index of barley is 26.
So,
Is this
Every
it?
food has a glycemic index.
yeah, there we are. Okay, thank you. So I think we're out of time now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's fine. I
But
appreciate it.
but Joe is willing to let you answer a few questions if you want.
Well, I'll be happy to if there are any questions. I just wanted to say that when we started raising barley, it was really just to address food security. And it wasn't until we got started doing that that we really began to focus and understand the beneficial side of barley, the healthy part of barley. So there's a lot we don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to answer those kind of questions if they're a doctor-oriented question, but if somebody has questions, I'll be happy to share what I can. There is additional information. Now, we saw 3 of the videos from Dr. Perdisu. We wound up skipping over one of them. You can find all of those videos on our website at alaskaflowercompany.com, as well as a bunch of other information about diabetes, about heart disease, and the benefits that barley provides. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take some.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have a whole lot. I'm just going to check the chat here.
There was one question just about the diabetes facts that you gave at the beginning about the 9,000, I think it was $9,600
$2,600 per person.
Is that per person per year, like an annual cost?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, those would be a per annual cost. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another person has a question. Is there any info on type 1 diabetes?
You know, so that's a doctor question. Diabetes, I think type 1 and type 2 are both. So I think type 1 is probably hereditary. Type 2 is probably a lot of times induced by nutrition or the cumulative effects of nutrition. Now, somebody may be able to correct me on that. The point I wanted to make is that if diabetes is a result of not being able to get enough insulin from your pancreas to take care of the sugars, then it would seem that barley, a low glycemic index food, would be beneficial in that diet as well. Now, if somebody has type 1, and again, I don't know about type 1 because I believe that that's like that's hereditary, or you're born with that. And but my guess is that any type of diabetes would benefit from a low glycemic index food and from the slower breakdown of that food in the gut. If anybody's out there with diabetes, ask your doctor about it. They know about the beta glucans. The biggest problem that they had in Texas that we found up here is that most doctors barley is not a grain that we use here a lot. We use wheat. Our diets are wheat-based. In other parts of the world, like India, he mentioned, it's a barley-based diet. And so barleys are just not as available here. And so we're kind of charting new territory in that sense.
I think, oh, Melissa, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I think we probably should switch over to Joe because she's been
Thank you
patient
so
waiting.
much.
And thank you, Bryce, thank you for bearing with us on all our technology issues, but we certainly appreciate it.
Jumping in and helping. Thank you.
All right. So I am pleased to get to introduce Joe Dawson, who was a member of the Food Policy Council Board for a number of years. And it's nice to see you, Joe. I'm going to get you spotlighted here. There you are. All right. Which means I'm handing the reins over to you. And I am going to just remind everybody that you are in session 6D, which is local and traditional foods in Alaska schools. And I'm gonna let you take it away, Joe.
Hi, give me just a moment here. I'm so sorry. I got a new monitor set up and I'm a little confused where everything is at. And okay, so you can see me okay? You can see the PowerPoint okay?
We can see you.
You can see me, not the
screen
PowerPoint.
yet.
Yes.
Okay. Let's,
Did you hit the share screen?
okay. I apologize.
Maybe I can make you co-host. Will that help? But I think it's okay. Oh, there you go. I see
Okay.
it.
You
You are
see
good
it.
to go. All right.
Thank you so
You
much.
are welcome.
So yes, hi, I'm Jo Dawson. I am the program manager at the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development for Child Nutrition. And I've been at Child Nutrition for 18 years now, 11 years as the program manager. I was born in Sitka. My mother and my grandparents were commercial fishermen, and my father was with Fish and Wildlife. And he swapped hats to the Alaska State Troopers. And with that, we began our journeys all across Alaska. And I've called home everywhere from Elfin Cove to Chickaloon to Kotzebue. But Juneau's been my home for several years now. In addition to having been on the Alaska Food Policy Council, I also am the past president of the Alaska School Nutrition Association. So this is definitely work I really love to talk about. So with that,
Hey,
we'll get
Jo.
started. Yes?
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we can, oh, it went away when you click to the next slide. You had your notes kind of over top of the presentation. So I don't know if you could pull them farther onto one screen.
Okay.
There you go. Yep, perfect.
Thank you. Sorry, but like this, trying to figure out my new setup here.
It's all good. It's all good.
That's what happens when you work at home. You come to the office, everything is different. So to talk about local and traditional foods in school meals is been a hot topic for quite a long time now, and it keeps growing and developing, and it's really exciting to be a part of. I always like to start off with the Alaska Food Code, which I think really tries to support local foods. This is it in a nutshell, which allows food to be donated to institutions, but there are some limits. And I thought it was this has been a day that has been full of amazing presentations to hear, what is happening at local levels, and barriers that are being broken. It's really been pretty amazing. So when we look at like this list here of foods that are prohibited by the Alaska Food Code, my friend Lorinda is always good to say it's not exactly prohibited. It's just that an institution has to work through a variance. They have to have a strong food safety plan. And that's what we heard about. Was it not Quirk, this morning, Manilik, maybe it was, where they worked on the seal oil. I think that's an amazing story, and would love to, continue to hear more about programs like that who have the capacity to work through those issues. In general, our schools follow the food code as it's written. They might not have the same capacity to work through those issues, which doesn't mean that they're not serving local food, because we're seeing it all across the state. The Farm Bill also supports traditional food. I will be the first to say I had some issues with how the Farm Bill was written, so I appreciated that it supported the traditional food, but it really supported it at schools that were tribally administered, which we only have one in Alaska. I worked with USDA on this topic for quite a bit, and they were able to back off somewhat to say, or those who are predominantly serving, Alaska Native American Indian students. And even that, I think, is a shortcoming to be able to include traditional foods, because all across Alaska, particularly coastal Alaska, a school might not be predominantly Alaska Native. for traditional food to still be part of the community culture. And I say that I was in a fishing family. We have fishing families all over Southeast, all over the coasts of Alaska, of all sorts of descent. So that is one area. It doesn't prevent the donation of local foods, of traditional foods, but it is somewhat easier through the Farm Bill when it is an institution that is tribally administered or predominantly Alaska Native. Why schools aren't serving more local foods is for sure one of the top questions I get from legislators. There is an assumption that it is against USDA regulations, that it's against Department of Education's regulations, and none of that is true. Like I said, there are some barriers, through DEC on what can be allowed. There's a couple barriers through Fish and Game on what's allowed to be donated. But we strongly support it. We work with our registered dietitian at USDA when we get questions on, nutritional standards for beach asparagus or, something on that. It's really generally a supply issue. And I went to a presentation earlier this afternoon by ANTHC on the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium on how changes they were able to make in one of their USDA programs. And by substituting catfish with halibut, and that was amazing. That was an amazing change. But when we think about traditional foods, supply is an issue. If it's going to be donated, who has it to donate? If it's not commercially available, then how are we going to serve it? How are we going to get supply enough for an entire school? At Child Nutrition Programs, we work not only with schools, but we also work with child care programs, Head Starts, emergency shelters. So we definitely see a lot of support for on the supply issue in our Head Starts because they've got a much smaller population. But nonetheless, we are still seeing a lot of success, and that's really what I wanted to highlight today is some of the success that we have and where we'd like to continue to go. This is everything I just said. So again, supply being that barrier, the perception is that it's a regulatory barrier. Not so much. It really is how are we going to get that food, that local food, that traditional food, particularly traditional food. The USDA does do a farm to school census every other year. And I think, what's successful about that, first off, I'm going to say farm is almost a misnomer. It really is local food to schools. And I say that because if you look on this list here, we see, no, it's not on this list, but fish as being a really pivotal part of the local foods in Alaska schools. So this last census showed 60% of Alaska schools participating. It has been higher in the past, so that's a slight decline from what it was. But I would like to also say that, several years ago, Governor Parnell had provided a grant to schools to help them with the procurement of local foods. It was called the Nutritional Foods for Alaska Schools Grant. And our numbers were much higher then, so they have declined a little bit. And we'd like to see those back up. So, we see a lot of procurement, education, promotion. We're seeing a lot of gardens, which is really, really wonderful. Over here, some of the foods that they are purchasing, fruit, where I see that local milk, you can see that's obviously a dated number. We would like to see that really bounce back up one day. 52% purchasing local protein. And so a lot of that really is going to be our fish. I think one of the great numbers there is to look at 12% of their local food expenditures on local food. That's a really, we'd like to see it higher, but I'm thrilled to see that number there. Bryce probably still isn't on, but then we have 21% with local grains. So he's represented, and we appreciate that. This greenhouse is up in Toke, up at the Alaska Gateway School District. This greenhouse provides produce to the school, just some amazing food. We know in Alaska we've got a short but intense season, and a greenhouse of this caliber really helps extend that for everyone to really be able to participate and enjoy all those healthy foods. Haynes, I reached out to Haynes this last week because they used to grow Tlingit potatoes in the cafeteria. And I was wondering if they were still doing it. I wanted to show a picture. They had cafeteria composting. And lo and behold, it has grown. They are providing, they're growing a lot in their garden now, not just the Tlingit potatoes in the cafeteria. They are still doing composting in the cafeteria, but their garden has grown significantly. And I love how they highlight it right there on the serving line. So the children are helping with the composting, they're growing, the harvesting, and then it gets celebrated at lunch when they're able to serve it. And these are scaled up, but you can scale back down. This is Cordova. I was there on a visit a couple of years ago, and this had been harvested recently, which is why it's a little thin. But this is right in the cafeteria. So this is in their elementary school, and the children help with the growing and help with the harvesting. And well, you can see that that's not going to serve all the children in Cordova. That experience and exposure and ownership are so pivotal and amazing. So we love that little beautiful garden in Cordova. Through our partnership with the Division of Ag, we were able to develop some Harvest of the Month materials that we provide to school districts. As you can see, we've got some pretty standard farm foods as well as traditional foods. They actually developed 2 different strands for us so that we could provide both to schools, really celebrating what is wild and what is cultivated. So we love those. Again, fish to school, it's just one of my favorite topics altogether. Again, I think that's because I come from a fishing family. This is Dillingham. I like to talk about Patty Luckhurst, who has passed away now, but she was the grandmother of fish to school programs. She did this on her own. She worked with Peter Pan there locally on establishing a day when the local fishermen would be able to donate their catch, and Peter Pan processed it for free and then returned it to the school district. And this has been going, I'm not even sure how long, at least maybe 14 years. And they still do it. One day a year, they close down for these donations, and they get enough fish that they serve it once a week, all school year, that they donate it to the Head Start. They donate it to the elder home in Dillingham, and the community members are invited to come and have lunch with their students on Fridays. It's really just an amazing story of partnership. And we do have these fish to school programs all across the state, not quite like this, but in different formats. Cordova again, and Petersburg, Sitka, Kodiak, they all have fish to school programs that are really a lot to be proud of. This is Haynes again. I had caught this on Facebook about 2 weeks ago with her beautiful sockeye salmon there. She reported that on this day, 87% of the students opted in for school lunch. That's a really great participation rate. So we love to see such a healthy lunch being provided to students and that they're choosing it. Because it's not nutrition if it goes in the trash. It's only nutrition if they eat it. All of the Fish to School has created, the need for resources, and we've been really lucky to have partners be able to help support this with both the purchasing, the serving, to help schools with this as a not, heat up meal as something that they're preparing from scratch. We also, when we had that grant, the Nutritional Food for Alaska Schools grant, we saw that there was a lot of purchases that schools were making and needed some support on. So if you imagine making salmon at home for your family is a little different than making it for 100 students. And so we worked with Cooperative Extension to develop some standardized recipes that would meet the requirements for USDA, that we were hitting our calorie requirements, our sodium, our fat, that we had nutritional analysis, and Cooperative Extension developed some recipes with us, for us, and it was really a pretty wonderful project. It's been a good 5 or 6 years now. These cookbooks are being used quite a bit. We try to highlight, different fish products as well as moose, reindeer. We have several barley recipes in there, as well as, vegetables such as carrots and potatoes, cabbage, pumpkin. So things that we grow here, that we harvest here, that we catch here. So what was fun about this project was the testing. So we tested twice, Cooperative Extension, we worked with the Fairbanks unit, and we did testing with the Fairbanks School District. And Fairbanks being very interior, the kids weren't as used to the fish recipes. They don't have fish as often in the interior as we do in coastal. And at one point, it was suggested that maybe we take those recipes out. But we actually did a second round of testing with kids who were from coastal Alaska, and had a few other tweaks, but they were much more widely accepted once we had our target audience. So these quotes here, those are right from the kids from the taste testing, which was just a lot of fun. We also include in that just nutritional specs in case they want to swap out foods for another, so that they'll have that information, and try to provide other resources for schools so that they can really see how the USDA meal pattern, how we're able to meet that with Alaska options. Up there towards the top, you see where we have USDA foods. Those are foods that we're allocated by USDA to bring into the state. But on every section, as you see here, we've got Alaska grown options include barley and wheat. So really proud to be able to show them, how we can kind of wrap around to support healthy meals for kids. And we created some lunchroom posters, again, really trying to show children across Alaska where their food's coming from. And then the menu poster, we had like the little Alaska grown stickers that we see right there, that when the menu, that was a dry erase there where it says today's menu, that they could put the Alaska grown to show the children where their food was coming from, and when it was Alaskan. So again, we really try to partner with anyone who has an interest in traditional foods. There's I would say less barriers and more little hurdles that we have to go through, but we really strongly support anyone who has positive input towards improving the nutritional value of school meals. There was a question in the chat, before the session, and I read it wrong first. I thought it was asking who was doing the most with Alaskan foods. And they're really, it's so different because along coastal, you know, we see so much fish, and more in the interior, we see a lot with the vegetables. Really pleased with both. But the question I think actually was, what would we like to get from USDA as far as, you know, an Alaskan food or traditional food? And I'd have to say the first one would be salmon, you know, finding a way to get salmon, because not all of our schools are co-located where they can build those relationships with their local processors. And so being able to get foods through USDA is always a benefit. And again, we're allocated a budget to receive foods from USDA, and it makes up 15 to 20% of the inventory of food out of school. The value is high, but the cost is low for them. And so they're appreciated, but it would be really wonderful to support Alaskan foods. We do sometimes see salmon on our TFAP foods that we receive. So we also administer the Emergency Food Assistance Program. But one of the issues we've had with the salmon is generally they can't guarantee that it's Alaskan salmon. And we don't want to bring in salmon that's not Alaskan. And there are times when Alaskan salmon is purchased, but our state numbers are so low that we're not always on the invitation to order. So that can be a little frustrating. You know, as far as, you know, other products, it was interesting watching ANTHC's presentation just after lunchtime, that they were able to get halibut to replace the catfish. I love that. And they talked about, you know, having that commercial availability, because we have the same issue that what is commercially available that USDA could purchase on behalf of us. And if we could solve some of those questions, then we could, I think, you know, make that bridge and be able to purchase more with those USDA commodity dollars that is grown from Alaska. I will say, though, we just received notice on Thursday of a grant that's coming from USDA to the states for local purchasing. And so I haven't had time to process it yet. It's about $500,000. The schools have to be, you know, participating in the school meal programs. We're actually meeting with our partners at agriculture on Monday to talk about that, to see, you know, which of us will apply, what it would look like. And again, want to make sure that we're supporting what schools really need, what they really want. So, you know, I guess I just to take with schools, understanding that, you know, they are working really hard. And I know I call it the Rodney Dangerfield of all meals. There's no meal that's more picked on, but is no more highly regulated than school meals. And what our school nutrition professionals are doing across the state, and they're working so hard to do so much. And these meals need to cost less than a cup of coffee. They are just superheroes. Collectively, you know, they are serving more meals than any other entity in the states. There's purchasing power, but they, you know, they've got a bottom line like any other meal producer, and districts frequently have to subsidize them financially. So, you know, as far as local foods, it still has to be competitive for them to be able to purchase, because they need healthy food, but they also have to, when they go over budget, have to answer. So that is really that. I'm not sure. I can't see the chat, so I don't know if there's any questions.
There aren't any questions per se. There's a lot of great comments about thanking Jody and the Borough in Kenai, but nothing in particular. But if anybody does have a question. please feel free
I
to
guess this is, hey, it's Melissa. I have more of a comment. I think Janie Hip offered her phone number and email address and would love to hear from you, Joe.
Yeah, I did deal with legal counsel quite a lot when that farm bill came out, and I would say it wasn't the last farm bill. It must have been the 14 farm bill, where it was great language until you got to the one point. So yeah, I did communicate the issues at that time. So it was she was wonderful to listen to today.
Wasn't she? Yep. So we have a new, she's a new council. We're in 2022. So I think she's here to listen.
Yeah, it's very exciting to have her there.
I agree. Well, thank you, Joe, for a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed it. And we are now in a break for the next 15 minutes. So go do what you need to do and come back here or wherever you're going to go. Thanks again, Joe. Nice
All
to
right,
see
thank
you.
you.